Hey guys, I hope you had a happy Easter. This Wednesday night, we're in part three of taking responsibility for your life, and it's going to be a really cool time. I'm not going to take time to overview everything we've done up to this point because I want to go into this a little more depth and tell you the story that we're going to be talking about. It's actually found in Joshua chapter 7, and it picks up after the Israelites go across the Jordan and they take Jericho and the walls fall down. And it's just this big defeat, this huge way that God shows up. And what happens is God says, whenever you take this city, you take Jericho, don't take any of the wealth, the gold, the silver, any of that stuff. Leave it as kind of an offering to me, a sacrifice to me. And what happens is this one guy named Achan goes in and decides, this is just a waste. And he secretly takes some of the wealth and hides it under the corner of his tent, ever how that worked. And he just kind of hides it there. Well, Joshua, none of the leadership knows what's going on, and they are ready to take the next city, which is a city called Ai. And they send in spies, and spies come back, and they're like, there's no big deal here. I mean, it's nothing compared to Jericho. There's no point in sending in the whole army. Just send in a few thousand. So Joshua sends in 3,000. They end up getting beat badly. I mean, getting run off from the city, and they lose, and they're defeated. And they come back, and we find this scene where Joshua and all the leaders are on their face before God praying, and basically they're blaming God, and they're whining about their situation, and they're asking God, why this, why that? We would have been better off if we'd stayed, on the other side of the Jordan. I mean, Jericho was great, but look at what happened. What's happened now? So, what Joshua didn't realize at the time is that Achan had disobeyed God, and what had happened when they went into Ai was that God said, "I'm not going to be any part of this because there's disobedience in the camp. There's disobedience among God's people, and it needs to be taken care of." So you have this scene where God is basically telling Joshua, "Get up off your face. Quit praying. This is not the time to pray. This is the time for you to act. You can sit and complain. You can blame me, and you can wish things were different and wish you could go back in time. But the truth is, now is the time to act, not a time to pray." And God basically tells them to deal with Achan's sin, and they do. And then they move forward and begin to take more cities, and God is with them. But the point is that we're talking about is that there's a time to pray, but there's also a time to act. And we have a tendency sometimes to cover our irresponsibility with prayer. We know there are things in our lives we need to change, things we need to deal with, things we need to confront, but yet we still want to put that off, and we'll say, I'm praying about it, I'm asking God to do something, and God's like, quit praying, you know what to do. And as far as teenagers go, probably the best application is that when God's already addressed something in Scripture, you don't have to pray about it. So many times teenagers feel like, I'm just praying about whether or not I should date this person or not. Well, if they're not a Christian, that's already covered. God said, if they're not a follower, you're not supposed to date them. Should I have sex before marriage? No, you don't have to pray about that. Should I be honest with my teacher, honest with my parents? You don't have to pray about that. Those are things that are already settled. So we want to talk to them about that, not using prayer as a cover for their irresponsibility. Also, we want to talk to them about confronting other people's irresponsibility, because in this story you see that one man's sin, one man's irresponsibility affected an entire nation, and that doesn't seem fair sometimes. That doesn't seem like that's the way it should be, but it's true. Whenever somebody else is irresponsible, it becomes somebody else's responsibility. Whenever somebody else lets their responsibility slide, somebody's got to pick up the slack. So we want to encourage them on two sides, that sometimes their irresponsibility is affecting other people that they care about, and they don't even realize it. They don't even recognize it, sometimes because of pride or selfishness, but they don't understand that what they're doing is affecting people that they love. But also that sometimes the most loving thing we can do is to confront irresponsibility in other people. When somebody's being irresponsible, it is our business. It may not be at the moment, but it will be passed down to us. You can see that in friendships, you can see it in families, you can see it, in a business, in a nation. At some point, somebody else's irresponsibility is going to affect you if you're close enough to them. So we're going to challenge them to be bold enough to confront irresponsibility in their own life and in the lives of the people that they care about. So just think about that. Read the story. Read over the questions. Be familiar. Also, this week, if somebody on your roll hasn't been there in a while, how about let's try to contact them this week, invite them back, see if we can get them back in church. But we'll see you guys Wednesday night.